the right has picked this up and said, sue Deadspin, bankrupt Deadspin. And I can't help but laugh at the center of this. I can't help but laugh somehow.
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. I have a few bright line rules when it comes to engaging in political discourse. The brightest of these bright line rules is to never get little kids involved in politics. Don't drag them to rallies. Don't use them as pawns in political speeches or presentations. Don't invoke their name. Let kids be kids for as long as they can be, because we all know they grow up way too fast and then they become adults, and adulting sucks.
Being a responsible adult sucks butt.
But apparently, these two buffoons in the media, Carron Phillips and Dan LeBatard, they didn't get that message. They're going to talk about a 5-year-old attending an NFL game. We're going to discuss this whole sordid saga, and believe me, it is a saga. But before we do, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. And if you like what you see and hear in this or any other video on this channel, smash that thumbs up button, like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that good stuff, because it all feeds the YouTube algorithm.
What? Feed me! Okay.
Thank you, everybody out there, for all that you do to help get the word out about the show, to share it out there. What you're doing is really helping out a lot. The show is reaching a broader audience. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. So the reason I have this bright line rule about kids is because more often than not, bad faith actors use children to their own advantage. It's one of the most disgusting things I see in politics. And frankly, it's a damn disgrace what these people did in this story and in general. To use a child as a pawn in your political game is absolutely revolting to me. Let's get into this story. It all started with Carron Phillips and an article he posted on Deadspin. The NFL needs to speak out against the Kansas City Chiefs fan in blackface native headdress. They're doubling up on the racism. Are you going to say anything, Roger Goodell? So Carron Phillips automatically here, this is an op-ed piece. He has an agenda. His agenda is to call out the NFL, and he's using this photo of a 5-year-old at a Kansas City Chiefs game, dressed in a native headdress and has a face painted. Now, this is the photo that was used, and as you see, the photo shows this 5-year-old with a black painted face. This is intentionally deceptive because, as you saw in the opening, this child had a face that was painted half red, half black. Let's get into the story, though, because you'll see that as we go through everything. It takes a lot to disrespect two groups of people at once, but on Sunday afternoon in Las Vegas, a Kansas City Chiefs fan found a way to hate black people and Native Americans at the same time.
I was 5 years old.
So automatically you see he has an agenda. Automatically he is ascribing an adult motive to clearly what looks like a child here. We didn't know at the time the age of the child. We've come to learn that he's 5 years old. We go down to a tweet here. This Chiefs fan is totally having a normal one from whoever this person, Charles McDonald, is. It comes along now with a community note that says, from the community, the Kansas City Chiefs fan is not wearing blackface. The other side of his face is painted red. The image of a Chiefs fan in blackface, again, completely incorrect, wearing a native headdress during a road game leads to many unanswered questions. Like what you ask? Let's see. Why did the camera person give this fan the attention? You know, when you're a cameraman, people are moving. Maybe he saw a child with his whole face painted, and then the kid turned around when the camera went live. Who knows? Why did the producer allow that camera angle to be aired at all? See prior answer. Is that fan a kid, teenager, or a young adult? You went into this tirade accusing someone of blackface without knowing who they are, what their background is, where they come from, nothing. You just automatically jump to your default buffoonish narrative of blackface, therefore racist. This is a tactic that is taken by hacks, folks. I talk about hacks in my book, Schnooks, Crooks, Liars, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. And I've discussed it before on this channel as well. Hacks look to put forth their own preferred narrative, their beautiful narrative that makes them the hero of their own story. In this case, this is a heroic writer accusing people of racism, calling out racism, calling out the NFL for allowing it to happen. He's the hero of the story, Carron Phillips, don't you know? And this kid, this 5-year-old, he's the villain. Despite their age, who taught that person that what they were wearing was appropriate? Probably someone who doesn't see race every time they look at someone. Probably someone who understands that fans paint their faces. It doesn't matter what team to root for. You know what? You can root for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have black and gold as their colors. If a kid painted their face half black, half gold, do you think that's racism as well? Or is that rooting for their team? Kansas City Chiefs, they have colors that are their team colors. This kid, let's go back to the photo for a minute here. This kid is wearing what looks like a red jersey and a black undershirt underneath it. He's wearing matching colors. That's what he's doing here. He's a 5-year-old, for God's sakes. And I know what some of you are saying out there, well, Carron Phillips didn't know he was a 5-year-old. That's kind of the point. If you don't know, then don't assume. Don't assume in your op-ed that you're going to put out to the world that this is bad behavior all of a sudden. So Carron Phillips' story on Deadspin comes out. The community note happens on the tweet. And then the spin continues, because instead of people in the media calling out Carron Phillips for not gathering all the facts before formulating his racist opinion, others now have to cover and spin and double down for him on his behalf. Because the mainstream media, they all stick together, right? So here's Dan LeBatard of the Dan LeBatard Show, a sports shock jock, I guess, who is dabbling in politics. I don't know. I've never heard of the guy, but listen, he's got a TV show. He must be doing well for himself. Good for him. He's got some thoughts in support of Carron Phillips, and for some reason, it's all about attacking the right.
So when you see immediately last night, the right picks up Sue Deadspin. Let's bankrupt them like Gawker, because a 5-year-old kid at a game has been dressed in face paint and he is wearing Native American gear. He's at a Chiefs game. Half of his face is red, half of his face is black.
So Dan's talking about the reaction from people on the right to Carron Phillips's irresponsible reporting, Deadspin's irresponsible publishing of this story, because again, he's using a 5-year-old as a pawn. I think reasonable people would be a bit outraged by that, but Dan LeBatard wants to make this a right-left issue, I guess. Let's see where he's going with it, shall we?
He should be punished because he's wearing blackface and you're only seeing half of his face, and then you see, no, there's also red face. And
red face? So I'm assuming that LeBatard is referencing the red skin, that, not to steal the name from the Washington team, but that the red part of the face is meant to be racist towards Native Americans. So now we're doubling down on the racism attributed to a 5-year-old, ascribed to a child who probably doesn't know what racism is. Because in my opinion, racism is learned behavior, not inherent behavior. So again, this is a child who probably doesn't understand long division, doesn't understand multiplication, doesn't understand the birds and the bees, but he understands racism. He understands blackface and redface, right? Are you freaking kidding me? Continuing this quote-unquote beautiful narrative of we're the good guys in this and the 5-year-old's the bad guy racist. Come on.
The right has picked this up and said, sue Deadspin, bankrupt Deadspin. And I can't help but laugh at the center of this.
What are we laughing at? What's so funny? We're laughing at the reaction of using a 5-year-old as a pawn in your culture war bullshit game? That is something to be outraged about, in my opinion. If this was your child, I want to ask you this. Leave me a comment about this. If this was your child that was being accused of being basically a double racist now, one side blackface, one side redface, what exactly would you do right now? Would you be enraged? Would you want Deadspin out of business? Would you want Carron Phillips roundly excoriated as a pariah? I know, big words, but whatever. You get what I'm saying. What would you do if this was your kid? I think there is righteous indignation when you use children in politics. It's, like I said, a bright line rule for me. Should be completely off limits to these buffoons in media.
Can't help but laugh somehow at the idea of they want him sued for one racism while the kid is still in full racist garb.
You know, I get that people think that cultural appropriation is a thing, but what about cultural appreciation? He's at a Kansas City Chiefs game. By the way, put a pin in this whole racist garb thing. There's a bombshell that comes later on after this that we're going to talk about after the break. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. Let's see what else LeBatard here has to say.
The only part of him that's not intentionally kind of racist is the black part. The rest is team colors, and he's going for just being a fan, but the racism is already in there, just not the kind that the right is picking up and flogging Deadspin with over a 5-year-old kid. Like, the stupidity of this is remarkable.
I guess this is LeBatard's attempt at being a shock jock, but he's running cover for Carron Phillips with this racist narrative. He's forwarding this liberal agenda narrative here. But, you know, don't pay attention to all that. He's got a dunk on the right for being upset that you're going after a 5-year-old. Clearly, he's on the right side of history here.
Yeah, it honestly makes me wonder if their hearts are really in it anymore. You know, like the culture war was real gangbusters for a while. People got real mad. I was on Twitter trying to like compete in the dunk on Donald Trump derby. I was trying to like agitate. I got blocked by, or whatever it was, Clay Travis, and I got in a war at some point. Now it just feels like everyone's just kind of like trying to trot out the hits. It feels like we're in the Vegas residency phase of like, you know, racism, policing, or whatever the opposite of that is.
This is all a game to them. This is Pablo Torre, who I guess was the guest on this segment of the show. This is a game to them. We're forgetting that there is a 5-year-old and a family that's caught up in the middle of this. And again, this is the game. Oh, it's like we're in the postmodern era of racism policing, or whatever the opposite of it is. Come on. The rules of engagement here are completely out of whack. You've lost the plot. Racism is not coming from a 5-year-old because he decided to put paint on his face to cheer on his team. LeBatard and his crew kept taking shots at the right, and probably mentioned Ted Cruz and all that. You can go watch that. I'm going to link the entire segment in the description of the video. But oh, the worm turned after that broadcast, because this came out in the media from the New York Post. Deadspin reporter blasted by mom of young Kansas City Chiefs fan he falsely shamed for wearing quote-unquote blackface. He is Native American.
Ruh-roh.
So it's not cultural appropriation anymore, is it, gang? I love it when this happens. Again, Phillips, LeBatard, they're in the same boat together because they both did the same thing that hacks do. They didn't check the facts. They let their mouths run off before their brain kicked in.
What?
We didn't do our homework.
This is clearly not racism. Let's get into the story. The mother of a young football fan who wore a headdress and painted his face red and black to a Kansas City Chiefs game has blasted Deadspin for accusing him of doubling up on racism against black and Native communities, noting that her son is himself Native American.
How you like me now, bitch?
Phillips also went on to say, this is what happens when you ban books, stand against CRT, and try to erase centuries of hate. You give future generations the ammunition they need to evolve and recreate racism better than before.
I'm coping.
Racists see racism everywhere because race is constantly on their mind. But this mother, Shannon Armenta, shared numerous images of her son getting a warm reception at the game while suggesting Deadspin focused on a photo that hid the fact that half her son's face was painted red. This has nothing to do with the NFL, suggesting the photo was picked purely to create division. He is Native American. Just stop already. Completely 100% on point, mom. Congratulations. The story goes on to point out that the boy's grandfather, Raul Armenta, sits on the board of the SHAMES tribe in Santa Ynez, California, according to the Post Millennial. Raul is listed as a business committee member who was first elected in 2016, according to the tribe's website. This is a child who not only is probably a Chiefs fan, because he's in Las Vegas wearing his Chiefs jersey with his family, but he's also a proud Native American wearing a headdress. It's not cultural appropriation, it's cultural appreciation. It's cultural pride. Aren't we supposed to be proud of our culture here? Let this be a lesson to all my friends in the media. When you hear hoofs clopping on the ground, assume it's a horse, not a zebra. When you see a photo like this, don't assume racism, because you're going to miss out on the real story. A young Native American boy having fun at a football game with his family, cheering on his favorite team. You freaking disgusting human beings came for a 5-year-old, and you're getting your just reward now. This is my opinion on this. Let me know what you guys think. Leave me a comment. Do you think that the comeuppance should be stronger for Deadspin, Carron, Phillips, and Dan LeBatard? Or should we keep talking about this and keep shoving this in their face, how they came for a 5-year-old and missed? How they used a 5-year-old for political points and they left with nothing but shattered credibility. Let me know what you think in the comments about this. And let me know if you want to talk about any other shenanigans and buffoonery that's going on every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.